there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now I want to do an acetate window in my card today that is coming off the edge of my cardstock, and for this I want a whole lot of smaller images. Now you can definitely have a look through your stash and find any small images you can use. It doesn't have to be floral or it doesn't have to be butterflies. You can do anything, any kind of theme. It could be animals, it could be tools, it could be anything that you have smaller images of. Now I have chosen these three here. This is the Wildflowers stamp from BoBunny, and then I have the Picket Fence Studios one here. This one is called Flowers for Picking. I've used this in a few videos before. I love the size of these flowers and I love the design of them. I have used them a lot and I definitely would recommend it because it's a smaller stamp set and so it has a really good price point, which is important to me. If they are still available, I will link those stamp sets all down below in case you are interested. But I'm going to stamp all of these out using a pigment ink because for me to colour these, I want to do really nice quick colouring, and I am going to heat emboss them so that the colours don't run together. So using a pigment ink that stays wet for a little bit longer than a dye ink because it sits on top of the paper rather than sinking into the paper, and that way I have time where I am able to add some clear embossing powder after I have stamped all of these flowers and it will still stick perfectly fine. So I did 2 little pages here. Now I am working on some Tim Holtz watercolor paper. Tim Holtz watercolor paper is my favorite by a long way when I am coming to watercoloring images. I really like the finish on the paper as well as the bright white color of the paper. And not that I'm doing it today, but I also love the fact that I can blend on the watercolor paper. And in fact, it is my preferred one by a long way because if you have trouble blending inks or you are just starting out, it takes a lot of practice to get a really nice smooth ink blend. But using this Tim Holtz watercolor paper also goes a long way. Now I am just using a couple of each colors. I'm using some Tumbled Glass and Salty Ocean as my blues, Wilted Violet and Seedless Preserves as my purples, Mowed Lawn and Lucky Clover as my greens, which I showed first there. Then Ripe Persimmon, Spice Marmalade as my oranges, Peach Raspberry and Worn Lipstick as my pinks, and then I'm just going to use Mustard Seed for my yellow. So you don't have to do 2 colors at all, and you could use anything to color these in. You could use coloring in pencils, watercolor pencils, you could use finger daubers, you can use inks like I am, or dye inks or oxide inks, anything that you feel comfortable with. You could use Copic markers or any alcohol markers, just whatever you feel comfortable with. But for the main part, what I'm doing is adding a darker color around the outside and then kind of lighter in the middle. Lots of these images are kind of too small to do really crazy serious blending. And what's most important when I'm card making is that I'm having fun, and so I don't want to kind of make it too serious about coloring because that's definitely not my forte. I just do enough to kind of get me through. But even when I add a little bit too much ink here, I actually went ahead and used the re-inkers to squirt a little bit onto the acrylic blocks, and that's where I'm pulling this from with my water brush. But if I find that it's a little too dark and I've added a little bit too much ink, I'm coming back into this pink one, adding a little bit more water out of my clean water brush, and then just dabbing some paper towel over top, and you can see that that lightened it up considerably. And again, if I want it even lighter, I'll just do the same process until I kind of have the right strength there, and that looks about right, and it kind of matches all of the other ones as well. Now obviously you can only really do that with the water reactive inks like the Oxides or the Distress inks or the Simon Hurley inks or the Catherine Paula inks. All of those ones that are water reactive, you're able to kind of come back in later on and add a little bit of water to lighten it up. I did just want to take this time here while I'm colouring as well to say thank you so much for those people who are continuing to support my channel and support using the affiliate links that I have down below. That provides a small income for me, which I appreciate so much. I really love bringing these videos to you and I really love it and appreciate all of those comments that I get and the thumbs up. They mean so much to me and I take it all in. I am very grateful that I have such a supportive community. Even on our Facebook group, that is kind of a community within itself, where it's become this really supportive group where we share ideas and encourage others and give ideas, and it's really become a fun place for me to be. So thank you so much for making that happen. But anyway, as I said, I will leave a link to my Facebook group down below in the description box. It is a great place to be, and I would love it if you can come and join us and share some of your versions of the cards that I create, which I love seeing. I have gone ahead and fussy cut out all of those flowers. Yes, it would be much easier if you had some matching dies, but I often don't buy the dies because when I invest in the stamps, that's pretty much where my money goes. And I don't mind fussy cutting too much at all. I am careful about which images I choose to fussy cut though. Now I have the Hero Arts Infinity Circles dies here. I've chosen one that is going to be cut out of the front of my 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. I use some of my mint tape, which is that low tack tape, and it makes me happy because I know I'm not going to rip my paper with it. And I'm using this Altenew stamp set here. I am going to use the one that says wishing you a fast recovery because I have a friend going in for surgery. So this is her card, and I have cut the stamp in two just so that I can stack it up, and I'm going to stamp it again in the same VersaFine Onyx black ink which I stamped the flowers in, and that just brings in the same colored ink and makes the card nice and cohesive. Then I'm going to add a tiny little, really thin amount of liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, which is the liquid glue that I recommend. Then I just use a circle from the Infinity Circles set, the one step bigger than the one I used to cut out of my paper, and I cut out a piece of acetate, and that will create my window. Now technically you could just leave the window there empty, but I am using the piece of acetate because it gives the card a lot of stability, especially since that little flap down the bottom would kind of be left hanging a little bit. So I want the card to be nice and strong and stand up without any problems. I have cut apart some of the leaf set that I stamped earlier. I cut them out so that they now look a little bit individual, and there's a couple of threes there. That's just cutting up my stamps to make them work for me. And then I'm just going to spread my flowers around the outside here. I used some nice bright colors for all of my flowers because I wanted this to be a cheerful card. And you can see that I've pretty much chosen to go with that, the little Picket Fence Studio. That was my favorite stamp set for these flowers. They definitely kind of were the easiest to place and arrange, and it was nice having so many different sizes in that little stamp set. So that was kind of what I went with. I actually ended up pulling out one of those blue ones just because it looked a little too crowded, and I knew I still needed to add in some of the leaves. Now I'm going around and popping up every second one of these. I do want to make sure that the foam tape lands on the cardstock side rather than the acetate side, because I don't want them to be seen through from the inside. And then every other one I'm just going to pop down nice and flat using some liquid glue. Now obviously this card could be made for any occasion at all, and as I said at the beginning, you can use any images. It doesn't have to be flowers or butterflies or anything going around the outside. In fact, I had the idea for the other card that I needed to do today, which was to create for a 5th birthday with little trucks and cars kind of going around the outside of the circle. So that's the one I will create after this. But this one is just kind of a nice generic one that I thought I would show you, and then you can use any images that you want to create your little border around your acetate window. And again, it doesn't even have to be a circle. You could make it a square or a rectangle, or just cut out any shape with your scissors at all. Have fun and just kind of explore what you can create. Now, as I said, with the finishing touches of these cards, I am going to add in a few little leaves here and there, and you can see that kind of nice acetate shining there, which provides, as I said, a good little bit of stability for the front of the card. I'm adding some glossy accents as dots, as well as adding them to the center of some of the flowers, and that just gives it a little bit of shine and a little bit of 3D dimension on top of the flowers. I was thinking about this afterwards and kind of wished I had put a little bit of sprinkle of glitter into the center of the glossy accents as well. I think that could have looked nice, but at the time I felt like it might have been just a little too much and taken away from the flowers, but it could have been nice. I might do it on another one I create. So that is my card for today. I hope you have enjoyed having a look at the acetate window created for this card. Thank you so much for joining me. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this one. I will leave links to everything down in the description box below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!